Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 5th of February, and well, you can see it right there, DOC. We had the crossover that was starting to build right here, finalized itself right at, yesterday. It was early on pretty much, because you had steel cross, so you had midterm, short-term buyers. And this is a byproduct of the Fed with the fears of the coronavirus and that spreading and that the global slowdown of China. They've been throwing money, huge amounts into the repo markets, which, for those that don't know, that's literally where hedge funds and that can go to borrow money in large amounts, and look at what they're doing with it. They're driving it right back. And so we got the dip of the orange, everything. So actually we can put our, and that's where you would have a transition, and this would become gold. And we saw this building on the 50K when it bought at the lows, and we'll look at that chart just a little bit, because it's up almost 100 points on that bicycle that it took from earlier on the dip. The NQ likewise was earlier even. The transition started right there, and then we get cyan under red strong. I mean, just no shorts whatsoever. They're completely covered through and gone. The euro, again, still got problems in Europe, no question about it, but they're still holding it up quite nicely. I mean, this is really quite extraordinary given the fact now with the EU breakup situation and poor growth. It's amazing that it's even maintained anything above, it should actually be sub-parity, but the power of central banks. This is going to be interesting. This is the complete drop-off of demand from China as far as oil goes. This could start to create a problem in the U.S., particularly in the Midwest. Oil producers and that will start laying off workers dramatically, and that will be an interesting quasi benefit to a lot of people from an energy standpoint, cost-wise, but then it reaches a point where it becomes problematic and getting close to that tipping point right there. So that'll be an interesting one to see, because I think they're going to just pretty much have to close down a lot of the shale production, things like that, because there's too much supply. And gold suffering a little bit of a setback here, as there is no draw into war. You have the State of the Union, and some of the fear aspect fading. So that's given a little bit of a pullback into, well, we filled in the positive extremes from right here. And there are still a few others going all the way back down to right about there. So pretty straightforward right there. So here's that 50K, and you can see right down here at the bottom, this was, we had our orange setup, we had the rising red DOC. And this was an interesting one because I was asked this question about intraday setups that were taking place that showed some short signals. But you also have to pay attention to this broader time frame, because as we saw the daily starting to turn around, the Opus caught this. This is the Opus T. And we can look at the performance report. Why the heck not? So far for the year, yeah, that's pretty staggering. For some reason, I'm not getting my data going back the full length of time that I normally have, so I'm waiting for that to upload again, but it doesn't change what's taking place from just this current standpoint, and it's pretty easy to see that the periodic return set up there just for the year. So pretty good, no complaints with that. You can see where the buy, the first one was at 32.31, so that's close to 100 points, and this one was at 32.22, so this is over 100 ES points, and that's how you make it. Pretty straightforward. Can't ask for anything better than that. From a 5K standpoint, you can see that and here's where it was some interesting things, because when you have this broad, I mean, we opened the market with like plus 40. So when you have that kind of situation, you already know that the likelihood is you're going to finish towards the highs. We're above all of our key algo levels, and not really making new algo levels within this. It wasn't until we spiked up right over here, just just after this buy setup that you created a positive extreme, and that filled later in the day, and that was the extent of what was going on. But what you see is you'll get a DOC spread, and this one started to look attractive. You had the breakdown below the 15, you had lower shakeout high here. The problem you've got is complete reset of the steel, and as soon as the steel started popping up, that's the warning sign, and then the orange continued to cave. A lot of times what will happen is this will start and the orange will pivot up before it gets down to there, but once it does, you got to go with what it is, and we continue to rise from there. And then you got a similar kind of short setup here, but again, you can see this is coming from extreme steel down low, suggesting that this wasn't about liquidity. It just meant more money kept coming in because short-term buyers remained flush. And sure enough, it didn't take much for them to push it back up. Then, again, you're making lower shakeouts, and you got to go with these when they come in there. I usually get defensive at that particular point. But here you had the dip below, back up, and so when that DOC spread for right here created the separation, you actually had a very clean signal from that standpoint. And that's the one that filled the positive extremes, even within the bullish day. And we kind of stayed soft until early in the pre-market here. You barely got to an oversold in this particular spot right there. And when we started getting a nice build in the DOC red, it was maintaining itself quite nicely. So you had the multiple pivots. Even here back at the P2, that would have been fine as well, especially catching somewhere between the 0 and 23% is what I like. But there was no question about it at this point with your X2 buy signals, and you can see what happened. I mean, even from this point, right at, well, just under 33, and that was almost 30 points ago. So, fantastic stuff. No complaints. Keep it easy. Follow those colors. Keep you on the right track. As always, though, trade well, and I will put up anything on the Skype chat as it's warranted. Talk again soon.